Hi everyone, welcome to Lisa's Stamp Studio. My name is Lisa Curcio. The Wonderful Moments stamp set has beautiful sketched images and equally as exquisite greetings that go with it. And one of the images is a bride. And I took that stamp set and I had a little bit of a spin to it so that she would have a veil. Here's the card we're going to be creating today. I'm excited to give you some tips along the way so that you can recreate it at home. Let's head over to the stamp table and let's get started on today's project. Here's a close-up of the card we're going to be creating today. I'm going to be using the Stampin' Blends, but we're not going to actually be blending. We're going to be using them for that real nice consistent color. And I'm going to make a small tweak on the card we're going to make together today, but I'll come back to this one. I'm starting with a base of basic black cardstock. If you're here visiting from YouTube, you can get all the cutting dimensions and information down in the description bar below of this video. I'm going to use the Climbing Vine embossing folder. Isn't this beautiful? We're going to start by embossing some texture on the front of this card. I've got my Big Shot platform here, and I'm going to place one of the clear cutting pads on the bottom to protect it. And I've got my embossing folder here and the front of my card. I'm going to go ahead and slip that in, and you're going to see it slips over kind of like a slipcover would. You can easily flip the folder around to have the vines going in the direction that you would like. I'm going to use it this way today. I'm going to place it on my platform and put another clear mat over the top. This embossing folder is 6 by 6. You're going to want to make sure that you have it snug against the edges because you don't want it sticking out, because as you roll it through then you would be chewing up an edge of your embossing folder. And then a simple crank with the Big Shot is going to bring out a beautiful textured design. I've cut a piece of Whisper White cardstock. I'm going to be using my Memento ink with this large bride image. She comes from the stamp set called Wonderful Moments. Varied greetings for both the inside and the outside of your stamps, and you're going to be able to see lots of beautiful images here that actually have a sketch tone to them. You'll find this stamp set here on page 136 of the annual catalog. If you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and are interested in Stampin' Up! Products, leave me a comment. I'll be happy to send you a complimentary copy of the catalog. The one thing I wanted to point out is you'll see how small the images appear here on the cover of the stamp set versus the catalog. All the images in the catalog are true to size unless otherwise noted, and there are very few of them. The reason this looks so small is because it's a large stamp set. You can see there's actually 2 sheets of photopolymer images here. So that's just a way Stampin' Up! Prints this cover sheet in order to make everything visible from the front. You can see how large the image is. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to turn it face up on my stamp table, and I'm going to use my ink pad in my hands and ink it this way. I find whenever the stamp is larger than the ink pad itself, it's actually better to stamp it this way because then I don't miss an area of coverage. And we're going to go ahead and stamp this in the center of that cardstock. Lots of firm, even pressure. This is a large image, so you want to make sure you trace the whole thing out. On the left side of this image, I'm going to stamp the greeting that says "For the Bride." I'm going to use the same Memento black ink and stamp that here. Now I've got my Stampin' Blends here. I'm going to start with the ivory, which is a beautiful flesh tone. You're going to see that I've protected my work surface when I'm coloring with these alcohol-based markers because they will bleed through the cardstock. And I'm a fan of using the thick Whisper White cardstock because it's going to hold up to the ink a lot better than the regular Whisper White cardstock, especially with these alcohol inks, which penetrate the paper. It's also going to help prevent any bleeding. So I'm going to go ahead and color these in very much like a marker. But unlike a marker, you're not going to have those streaks or lines that a marker leaves behind. So this will give you beautiful, even color coverage. I'm going to go ahead and cap that. And I'm going to switch over now to the bronze. One thing I want to point out about the Stampin' Blends, and you'll see 2 white lines just under the cap. The thicker line indicates the brush side of the Stampin' Blends, and the thin line equals the chisel tip of the Stampin' Blends. And I like to use that when I'm working with small areas. I like to work in small circular motions just to provide coverage, but there really is no rule. You want to protect the tips of your Stampin' Blends, so just use them carefully. And then we're going to switch over now to the light Calypso Coral, and again I'm using my thin tip. It's very difficult in this image to actually see where the flowers are, so I kind of just guessed. So I'm going to put a little bit of color here and a little color there. And then we're going to fill in with some green for the greenery of those flowers. And again, just like the flowers, I'm not sure where that goes, so I'm just going to fill in to make it look more like a bouquet. And because the Stampin' Blends provide such beautiful even coverage, it's going to look fantastic when it's finished. I'm going to make sure too to provide some coverage over here near her hand so that the bouquet looks full. My original image, I used a basic black marker and I colored in the sash of her dress. You'll find nowadays with weddings, a lot of brides' dresses are coordinated to the colors of her wedding, including the color coordination to her bridesmaid dresses. This one today, I'm going to go ahead and leave white. I'm going to flip that over and you're going to see that bleeding that we talked about. I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals on the back to elevate this on another panel of white. I'm going to go ahead and place one of each of these in the four corners, and I'm also going to place one in the center. I try to use a few extra on a larger piece of cardstock because I'm cognizant that it's going to go through the mail meter at the post office before it arrives at the other end. Keep in mind, if you're attending the wedding, you'll be hand delivering it. It's a little bit more forgiving. And then this panel is slightly larger, which is going to give me a frame all the way around this white image. I'm going to flip that over and I'm going to grab my snail adhesive. I'm going to go ahead and use my adhesive generously on the back of this. Because we have embossed the card base, we want to make sure that we're providing enough adhesive to fill in all those little nooks and crannies from the embossing folder. And that's going to go right here in the center of the card base. I like to flip from the back and then rub to make sure I've got good adhesion from the front to the back, especially with an embossed piece. Now let's go ahead and work on that veil. I'm bringing in my silicone craft sheet so that you can see a little bit better. All I did was I folded it in half, and I am not looking purposely to make these ends even. And I'm going to pinch it in the center so I get a slight crease. I'm going to bring in my glue dots, and I'm going to place a glue dot right between these two areas that I pinched for a seam. So I'm just going to press that right on top of that beautiful polka dot tulle, and then I'll fold that in half. The next step is I want to make sure that I don't have these hard edges because I want it to look like it's on her head. So what you can do is you can fold them under, and the glue dot should catch some of those edges. If that doesn't work for you, you can go ahead and take your scissors and snip them. And then I'm going to put another glue dot on the back here. I'm going to pull that off, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach it here near the top of her head. Any imperfections are going to be hidden by the pearls, which are going to represent the headdress to her veil. I've got a package of pearls here. This is the old formation of the pearls. They are now sold without this stranded few rows that are here, but exactly the same pearls. 3 different sizes, so a small, medium, and large. And I like the small ones for the buttons down the back of her dress. I like to use my paper piercing tool to pick them up. They already have glue dots on the back, so I'm just lifting that veil, and then I'm placing them here. The paper piercing tool, that little sharp tip, is going to be wonderful for picking up these little small pieces and allowing for me to place them exactly where I want them. So I'm placing them right over the stamped images of the buttons. Now let's go ahead and create the headdress here. I use the medium size pearls, and I'm starting in the center at the crown of her head. And then I'm going to place one on each side and work my way around until I'm happy with the way it looks. The number that you use is entirely up to you. It's just a matter of preference. But I want to make sure that if I have any imperfections in the tool, that it's covered by this. So I want those hard edges to be gone. And I'm just going to press those in place. Isn't this simple, but yet really stunning? This is the one we created today without the colored sash. And then this is the one I did before you joined me. So I colored the sash black, not just to coordinate with the card, but I'm assuming maybe my wedding is black, white, and gold, or black, white, and silver, just to create a personal touch for this wedding. I'd love to know which one you favor, and I'd love to know if you've given the Stampin' Blends a try. Remember, you're going to be able to find the cutting dimensions and information below in the description of this video. Thanks so much for joining me, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.